Good evening, everyone. I am excited that you are all here. Thank you for joining us this evening. We have a tight schedule, so we're going to get started with Adobe and how you can implement this creative tool to support storytelling and the Write a Book program. And then we're going to dive into PIC, where will reflect on instructional practices of how you use technology effectively to enhance student learning and engagement. And lastly, you're working too hard. How can you take the resources you learned today and Brisk AI to assist the work that you do? So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and pass this on to Amanda.
Hey everybody, you're working too hard. Can I attend that session? Uh, the
Absolutely.
um, so yeah, let's go ahead and get started because I do want to make sure that y'all are getting the most out of our time. So we're gonna hit play. Who's ready to unlock student creativity? So excited to be here today. I don't think we could have timed this better. I am in Dallas, Texas right now at the Texas Association of like our big yearly librarian conference. So definitely in the library mode right now. I am Amanda Hunt, a middle school library media specialist, and I'm also a secondary lead librarian for my district. And I cannot wait to show you how like Adobe Express and the library are like the perfect fit for each other. If you would please sign in, it's going to be so important for you guys to make sure you get the credit and that you get your fun little badge for being here today. I definitely want to make sure that you get that. So I'm going to leave this up for just a second. I'm also going to drop in the chat if I can find it. Um, the Padlet link, because that's going to be my next slide, and I want to make sure everyone has it. Let me present back, and I want to make sure everybody gets the registration for your attendance today. It's so important for y'all to have it so that you can get credit for being here. And I know with professional development, I want that credit, right? So please make sure you do that. And I will also, I can show this at the end for anyone that might pop in later. So we're actually going to do this in 50 minutes because I want to be respectful of your time and all the awesome things y'all are doing in your meeting. And so we are going to show how you can get students creating. And honestly, yes, we will be recording. I think it's already recording, so that's so exciting. The link will be in the Padlet tomorrow. So in the chat, if you were able to grab that Padlet tomorrow when you get back in there and you have it bookmarked, you'll be able to see this recording, especially if you are the learner that likes to like sit for a minute and like take it all in and not have to like follow along with me. Either way is great. But if you are that person, sometimes I like to have that recording to go back to. We definitely want to make sure that you guys are getting some Adobe swag. So they have the best swag, in my opinion. And so I love sharing all the things that I'm doing and getting all the things, right? T-shirts, mugs, chargers, right? Right. Educators, we need the free things. So that link right there, it will take you to the Padlet. It's the same one that I dropped in the chat. So if you share your work on the Padlet, even if it's not like the second, you will be entered for a chance to get some free stuff from Adobe. So our biggest hope for our students, right, is that they grow up to be successful, kind, good human beings, right? And we want to make sure that they are prepared for success out in the world. And I know a lot of things are happening right now in regards to like artificial intelligence. I think a lot of conversations are saying, potentially there are jobs out there that may not exist in the future, and a lot of people are worried about job security and things with AI. Um, but I will say that 85% of employers are looking at creativity for success in the future workforce. That is huge because they do not want a robot to repeat the same thing back to them. They want kids that are critical thinkers. They want adults that are able to think outside of the box and imagine things that haven't been invented with AI yet. So it's definitely important for our kids to start honing those skills in now as early as possible. I am actually going to make sure y'all can hear that.
Is the playground that always has a new and fun creative activity. There are also 4 boxes on your right that show popular tasks. Just below the playground, you will find the tasks room. You can view other categories such as projects, events, and clubs.
Jesse's great. I love his video. But I'm going to kind of walk you guys through it from like a librarian point of view. So whenever you guys are in Adobe Express, and if you have the opportunity to get in there and kind of just play around while I'm talking, or if that's distracting to you, you can do it later. But whenever you get in and you log in with your school email, Adobe Express is 100% free. Okay. If we're talking about equity and we're talking about making sure all of our students have the ability to access the same things, this is a free K through 12 site that they have the ability to get into. Right. And so as an educator, when you logged in and you are in your like you've logged in with your school email and you choose school/district, you're going to see the option at the bottom that says educator resources. This is your menu right here. Okay. And if I ever get lost in the weeds and I've fallen down some rabbit hole of Adobe Express and I'm like, how do I get back? That rainbow A is going to take you home every single time. So this right here will take you to this landing page that you see on the screen. They are highlighting several things such as their generative AI activity right now. But their top go-to things that students would be able to very quickly get into and start creating are going to be make a video, create a graphic, animate your voice, and build a web page. Okay. A lot of people think that this is just like a graphic design site, and why yes, it does have a lot of those amazing features that it's pulling from Photoshop and from Firefly. It also has the ability to do so much more, especially for like educators. When you scroll a little bit, you're going to see these suggested quick actions. I'm going to point out some of my favorites. So animate character is the same one that's going to take you here. And so if you were a user of Flip or Flipgrid and you're sad that it's gone away, this is Adobe Express's answer to Flip. And I love that right now it's doing up to 2 minutes of recording. But one of my favorite things is that it allows kids to click a button that says enhance speech, and then it takes out all of the background noise. So if you're in a library with 30 kids and they are loud, because my library is loud, then you have the ability, students have the ability to press that button and it takes out just all the outside voices except for their own. You can now generate QR codes in Adobe Express. And then this one is my favorite. You can edit a PDF in Adobe Express. So if you have something you got on Teach a Great Teacher, or you have an old assignment from another librarian or somebody that you'd used it before, you can upload the PDF and you can drag and drop and change all, it makes it all editable of whatever you're bringing. So lots of things on here that are quick actions to get our kids in. But the big one that we are going to discuss today is the educator resources. So down here at the bottom, this is honestly my favorite thing that Adobe Express has done, because I have not seen it on any other ed tech platforms that I'm a part of. It allows the students to learn from a how-to video that's anywhere from 1 to 2 minutes long. It walks them through creation from the beginning all the way to the end of whatever activity it is teaching the kids how to do. So for me, I don't need to feel like I have to be the expert in the room straight off the bat. A lot of times adults, when we learn something new, we feel like we have to know everything about it before we share it with kids. And that's just not something you have to do with Adobe Express. You could take one of these lessons into the library tomorrow and you would be able to do the other reason I love it is because the videos pop up on the side, and I'm going to show you in a second what that looks like. And the students have the ability to also take control of their learning. My students that are emerging bilingual, or my special education, my resource students that need a little bit more time, they can pause the video and they can do the activity that it says, and then they can pause or they can rewind and go back. And so we have a lot of differentiation happening in the classroom just by using those how-to videos that pop up on the side. When you click on the educator resources from the menu tab, it's going to take you to this page. Right here, it's going to have all subjects. That's going to be for us because we do not necessarily fall in the core subjects, although we do lean heavily in language arts and English. But if you're on all subjects, you would be able to kind of scroll and see all the activities that they have. And they're adding more all the time. Like I did a session just 2 days ago, and there was one in there I hadn't even seen yet. So every day they're adding new lessons in different content areas and just like in general. But the first one we're going to start with is this one, create a book cover. I've actually done this lesson and with my 6th graders, and it was such a huge success. How you can share it with them, I'll get into creating classrooms in just a little bit. But this link right here, if I were just to click on it, it is a template link. So however you get information to students in your library, whether it's through an LMS platform, whether it's through just projecting a QR code, that would be the link that you would send to them. The students it would automatically make them a copy on their account, and they start editing, and it's all of their work. It doesn't mess with the original, and it's gonna have that video that pops up, okay? So if I click right here, it's going to do what I just said. It's going to open up in its own, and it's not going to give me anything else other than just that assignment. And here is my pop-up video. Okay. So this one, and a lot of times kids are clicking around, they're doing all the things and they lose the video. Oh no, where did my video go? I can click on the little light bulb at the top that is the learn button, and it pops right back up. I'm going to let it play for a second so that y'all can kind of hear what the instructional video sounds like.
In this project, you will create a book cover. You will learn a few advanced editing techniques for photos and text. Let's get started. Step 1. Edit the background image. Switch out the image with an image that works for your book cover idea.
So if this is their first time getting into Adobe Express, that was kind of quick, right? So again, with that differentiation of what I'm talking about is that students can then pause it, they can rewind, and they can rewatch it again as many times until they see that in this particular activity, we are going to click on this background image, and it's going to bring up some options. I can delete it, and then it's gone. But if I messed up and I'm like, oh no, I did not want to do that, undo button at the top. Okay, we'll bring it right back. Now, with this book cover, it can be something that you're doing in conjunction with another teacher, or it can just be a lesson you are doing solo in the library. So for me, we used it with Jasmine Warga's a Rover story. And I had students reimagine the book cover based on the first part of the book. They had not gotten to the second part where the rover actually goes to Mars. And so I told them that's what the cover currently looks like. The rover is on Mars. So what you're going to do is take all the information you have gathered in part 1 of the book, and that's the cover I want to see. So that was the challenge the students had. But first, they did this guided activity to have them learn the steps of how Adobe Express works. And then I created my own example of a book cover, and I was able to share that template with them for the second part of the assignment, which is to actually recreate a book cover. And we use generative AI to do that. And this lesson does not, like this particular one, doesn't include that. So I wanted to kind of take it up a notch, but after they had had this introduction to Adobe Express and how to create, like bring this cover to life. So over here on this side, my menu, it's going to be important that they know how to get their own image. Okay. So if I click on media, it's going to take me to this where I can choose from photos, videos, audio obviously would not necessarily apply. But if I'm back over here, When I hit the search button, I am searching the thousands and thousands of images that Adobe Express owns in their stock image photos. So if I am doing Otter by Catherine Applegate, for example, and I want an otter, I can search it and I can use one of their images. Okay. I can also click the upload button and I can upload my own photo of an otter that either I took myself or something else I found on the internet. And if we're teaching about kids and we're teaching about how to be safe online, and we definitely want to give attribution as well. If I'm using Adobe's images, I don't need to give attribution because they're all owned by Adobe. And the kids, the second they start editing a template or their own creation, Adobe Course, it becomes their property. Okay. So if they share out anything online, it's going to be owned by that student. Like that is theirs. They created it using Adobe Express, potentially using the generative AI features. And so it becomes theirs. If they're pulling from images off the internet and things like that, it's a great conversation to start about giving credit so that we're not taking just random things from people and not giving them the credit that they deserve. So if you upload something, make sure you have that conversation with them about, maybe put the link at the bottom corner or make sure it's from a website that offers free images for you to download. I could also make it a video if I wanted. But if I click one of these, well, Otter, the book is just about one otter. So we're going to click that. And I can either, like I did earlier, make sure I was selected on the Rocket Man background and I can delete it. And now I have this one. And this little 3-dot thing right here allows me to like send it to the back, send it backwards, all of that kind of stuff. But what I'll do is I'm going to drag it up here and I'm going to just resize it. And then I'm going to send it to the back. Okay, so I have my new cover and I am now ready to change the text. Okay, and all I did was select it, double tap, and then I was able to edit it. If you are starting from scratch and inserting your own text, you can click text over here on the side and you can click that add your text button. It will pop up somewhere on the page. It'll be highlighted so you can already start typing and change out what you'd like. Okay. If you want to change something, my background is not dark like the last one was. So this white may not be it. So when I'm selected on one of these text boxes, over here, right here, where it says fill, that's the color it currently is. The cool thing about Adobe Express, one of the cool things I love, is that it will use AI to look at your image and give you suggestions of what color palette works the best. Like I am not good at choosing color palettes. Like yeah, it took me forever to get my brand and the colors that I wanted because I just cannot make decisions on that. Also, I don't really know what's aesthetically pleasing, but they do. And so if you want to take their recommendations, that's an option. I have my color palette here for my brand that if I wanted it to look like all the brand stuff I do, or I can click more colors and I have this whole thing that I can pick from. Or I can click the little eyedropper and I can hover around one of these pixelated colors and I can change that. Okay. And then it's Catherine Applegate. I hope I'm remembering that right. And then one otter to change everything. So I can give it a little tagline. I can add elements. So over here on the side, again in my menus, I can go where it says elements and I can search otter and see if I wanted to add any of these options, which would be more like clip art from back in the day. They'll have icons that you can look and choose from. It's so cute. And I can add them on the screen, but if I don't want it to be black, you see that automatically I have that fill button again. And again, it's going to give me some recommendations, or I can just choose a different color. Okay. And I can drag and move them around. But since it doesn't really go with my photograph, I'm gonna take that off. So once I have my book cover, okay, and yes, there's way more editing you can do. You can change the font over here. I can change how thick the lines are for my images, the outline thickness like this. I'm going to change that to black so I can see it better. And then I'm going to make sure that my outline is black so I can see that better. You can grab this on the corner to make it bigger, or I can just hit that a bunch of times to make my text bigger. All right. I can center it. I can add, bullet points. I can, since it's just one line here, it's not going to make any difference. But if I had two lines, like where it had rocket and then man, I can adjust the spacing between those lines. Okay. I can also go to effects and I can make it a little like some shading, some outlining, and then I could go to animation and I can make it flicker, but then that turns my file that was a static, just graphic PNG JPEG file into an MP4. So now it's a video because I added these animation choices. I'm going to undo that because I just want it to be that. Over here on the side, that's another way, because whenever I was clicked on it and I right clicked and I chose bring forward, bring to front, or send backwards, send to back. Over here on the side, I also have that image that has all of my icons, and I can drag them and move them in different orders. Okay. So that's a multitude of ways of how you can reorder all of the different graphics you have on the screen to all be in the exact stack you want them in. So layers kind of hurts my brain a little bit. So I use the right click option to or I use that 3 dot more option to bring that up to adjust that a little bit. Now, I always need to name my things because students will send me stuff and it's like untitled, the date and all the things. And I'm like, who did this? So Otter, and then I'm going to make it Hunt, right, for my last name. So now it is renamed. All I did was click in that box, edited it, and then I clicked out of that box. Okay. And so it changes the name. There's lots of different ways you can share this now that we're somewhat done. I can click that little invite button and I can add people to it. So if you just want a co-collaborator, maybe another librarian or another teacher that you are working with on this project, you can add them and then you'll both be able to access the document. Okay. I can also copy the link and share it to them that way. I can click the download button and I can download it as a PNG, a JPEG, a PDF, or a PDF print, depending on how you want them to get it back to you. Okay. And then I have the share button. Okay. And the share button is what I use the most, right? As librarians, we see the entire campus. Okay. So I don't want to add a student as a collaborator with me because that's not, they started on a template link. I want them to send that final product back to me. I can click view only link. And that's how students can create that link, they can copy it, and they can send it back to me in whichever platform you use. We're a Canvas district. And so we use Canvas, or I use Canvas to go back and forth with my students in the library. I'm also using Classrooms in Adobe Express, which is our next thing that we are going to talk about. If I chose share and I wanted to make this a template for now the students to start editing from here instead of start editing from Rocket Man, now that they kind of know the process of what that looks like, I want them to edit Otter. That's going to be where I can make a template link. And I'm going to make sure I'm clicked right here where it says create a public template link. When I do that, it's going to take a second, but once it generates that template link, now I can share this with kids. And instead of seeing the Rocket Man with the little how-to video, they're going to see just the otter example, and they're going to be able to edit from there. A lot of times my students get very overwhelmed and they start to shut down when they are given just a blank template or just blank screen. And I tell them, all right, go make a video, or I say, go make a book cover. They love having something to start from and being like, I want the title on here, the author, and an image. Those are what you have to have. You can take out all this stuff and you can redo it and make it as great as you want, as beautiful as you want. But that's one of the things it has to have. And having that starting already, then they can just edit it from there. And I get a lot better responses than if I just say, here's a blank screen, start from there. So this is the link I would send to students, or I would make it as a QR code, or I would put it as an assignment in Canvas to send to them. But let's talk about classrooms. Classrooms is a newer feature that Adobe Express has rolled out, which is an LMS, a learning management system that is built into Adobe Express. So no longer do my kids have to go to Canvas, get the assignment, open it in Adobe Express, do the assignment, send it back to me in Canvas. Now everything can happen inside of Adobe Express. So if I want to go back home, so I'm going to click that rainbow A. Right here on the side, it's going to say classrooms, and it's going to say new because it is kind of relatively new to Adobe Express. All right. In classrooms, you can create a class from scratch. Now, as librarians, it's really hard to put the entire campus into one class. It's what I do for my Canvas course, but honestly, I think I would rather do like 7th grade and have a course, or 8th grade and have a course, or even Miss Boyer and have all of her students in that one. And then I'm going to make one for Miss Wheeler and have all of her students in that one, right? So you can call it what you need, all of those things. Great. I have some classes already. My library aides just started using Adobe to create their own podcast. And it is so user friendly that I didn't teach them one thing. I told them, go to podcast.adobe.com and teach yourselves. And so they 100% have taken on the responsibility of that. And I absolutely love it for student autonomy, and also just all of the things that they're learning on their own. They feel so accomplished, right? So in that course, all my library aides are in it, and I can create an assignment for them. So with their podcast, they're also using social media graphics to advertise the podcast. So that's what some of these are. I also had to make a logo for it. And then they're also learning how to make buttons, so they can do that too. So I can create an assignment from scratch. I can give it that title of Otter. I can give them instructions of exactly what I want included, or potentially I could click over here on attachments and upload a rubric if I'm getting real specific with it, or if I'm working and collaborating with a science teacher and they already have that rubric, we're just doing that together, then I would include that as well, so they have everything they need to get started. I'd give it a due date, and I would choose which class that I am in. I would go to templates, and I can either choose a project like the Rocket Man, or I can choose one of my things that I've already done as the assignment. And then I hit assign. Okay. Obviously, it's going to want me to give the title and all of those things. But I can also see it from a student point of view and see what they see. The cool thing I also like is this option right here. This is what makes it different from Canvas, is because I can click on class gallery and all the students can see each other's work after they have submitted their own. Okay, so it's basically like being able to take a gallery walk through a library, but on the screen. So they can see how everybody else adapted this book cover. Okay. So I love that that's an option. You do not have to use it. You can toggle it off. Let's say I started it and I had a student turn in something maybe not appropriate and I didn't want the whole class to see. I can just go into my assignment and toggle it off so that they're not seeing the classroom gallery. Again, they have to turn in their own assignment before they can see everybody else's. It helps with like them not copying each other or cheating or any of that stuff. So they do have those options, and you do as well as the teacher. So I'm going to get rid of that, but I do want y'all to see what it looks like from the librarian teacher point of view. So this right here, when I click on one of the assignments that I have given them, it's going to show me their name. It's going to show me who has not started, who has turned it in. who has not started, who potentially is in progress with it, meaning they've opened it and they're still working on it, and then who has returned it. So that's where I can view the classroom gallery, and I can see all of the students that have turned it in and what theirs looks like. Okay, so just a little tip on classrooms. I highly recommend, if you want everything to streamline easily, you can use Adobe Express to push out this stuff. Now, how you do that depends on you, the size of your school, how you want to break that out. If you only see your reading teachers, then yeah, do it by reading teacher. If you see certain grade levels, then you could do it like that. So definitely it's up to yours to customize however you'd like. But for librarians, it is different because we don't have rostered students. So when I am creating that class, there is a way that you can click a QR code, and you can share that class, and students can just sign in that way. So whenever I am sharing the class with the kids, manage class, I can add and delete people in it. And then when I click that add student button, this will come up. Okay, and so it automatically right now filters with Google Classroom. So if you do have Google Classroom and you do have students rostered that way, it's just real easy to swap them over. But at the beginning of the year, I just put this up on the screen, and that's how my students join my class. So then the majority of my assignments, if I know that I've planned out my year and the majority of what I'm doing with them in the library is through Adobe Express, it's worth setting up a class in here so that way I can really dive into it with them in this, and they're not having to go between different products. We are a one-to-one iPad district where I am, so it just works seamlessly between the two pretty well. So if you have an opportunity to create your own class, and then you can use, if I wanted to go to assignments and I'm going to create an assignment, before I use my own lesson, but I can also choose product types and I can search that way. I can go back over here to the educator resources. And remember, if I wanted to do the All About Me graphic to introduce myself to kids at the beginning of the year in the library, I can click that template link. I can already have mine done, and I can project that in the library. And then I can push the little template link out to students. And again, anything in educator resources that you use, you make that, it's going to have this video pop up on the side. So that way, again, kids are walking through step by step with the video. So all my students that learn at different paces, and then I can be walking around and checking on kids that might be falling behind, that aren't going ahead too much. So just something that is like a co-teacher, really, to help you do the heavy lifting so that you can focus on individual students, especially when you are the librarian and you may not know if students have an IEP or if they are emerging bilingual, what are some of their accommodations. To not, if you don't have access to all of that, this provides that for them. And then just by the way, since we're talking about emerging bilingual, you can translate all of these assignments into whatever language you want to. That is already on here. So whenever you click this button right here, it says translate, you can choose from all of these options. In Texas, it's 100% Spanish. Where I am, all of my emerging bilingual students are Spanish. So what it'll do is it'll take this, it'll leave it on English, and then it'll duplicate a slide that is in Spanish for you, or whatever language you choose. And I can apply it to all the pages of whatever I'm working on, or just that one. So I love the accessibility features for this. And then again, I'm opened up on this, and then I can just easily click assign. I can choose that for my library aides. I can toggle on class gallery, and then I can hit create link. It goes right out to the kids. They'll see it as a notification when they get into Adobe Express. So very easy to use classrooms pretty seamlessly. All right, the last activity we're going to do is one that is right up our alley as librarians, which is like digital literacy, and like cyberbullying and how to be safe online. I love that Adobe Express created this because I use this exact template during Digital Citizenship Week. So if we go to the Rainbow A and we're back on Educator Resources, It's actually the third one over because it's really been advertised a lot because we've been having Digital Learning Day. And, in October, we had, Digital Citizenship Week. So we have lots of those things, and it's always a good idea to have those conversations with kids. This educator resource will take them through. Again, if I want to click that template link, send it straight to kids, however you want to do that, it takes 40 seconds for them to learn how to do this video. So when I click on it, it's going to automatically make me that copy. It is in my template. It is in my Adobe Express now. I can edit it and share it. And it becomes my property. Okay. Again, I can rename it PSA Hunt. However you want them to name it is good, but I just want y'all to see how we can rename things, because a lot of times I can't ever find things in my your stuff area. So I need to make sure, like, this is my your stuff. I want to make sure everything's labeled so that I can go back and easily search and find things. In this particular video, let me play it for a second.
In this project, you will create a short video PSA sharing tips to stay safe online. You will learn to add text and images, replace assets, and add animations. Step 1. First, let's write the text of your PSA.
So this allows students to kind of take some ownership and responsibility around a particular issue that maybe they're passionate about. If you're working with like your social studies team, I worked with my 7th grade Texas history department, and they did PSAs from the point of view of like the Mexicans and Texans that during the Alamo. And so they kind of used it differently. So just because this says that you would make a PSA on this one, and it's about 3 ways I stay safe online, does not mean that that's what you have to have this assignment do. That's what the video is going to show you as an example, but you can make it whatever you'd like. It's going to start with these 5 panels. All right. It's going to give you these to begin with. And right now, 6.5, 5.5, do you see how many seconds they are? And if I hit play, it's going to show me the graphic, the animation that pops up, and then it's going to have a transition into the next one. This particular slide is using generative AI to make this little girl right here. The next one is using a stock image from Adobe Express. The next one is using an element or a graphic in Adobe Express. So it's having kids learn the 3 different ways to create images in Adobe Express. It's also teaching them about how to make this a video instead of just stagnant images that are just JPEGs that you click through. All right. So that's where you'll be able to click on it. And the reason this is a video is because each of these has an animation already put into it. Right now, this one is on pop. I can do the intensity, I can change the duration, and I can see it do it. I can even click on this one and I can make that one be something different. So they can all have different animations, and you can decide how long each of them are. If I am highlighted on one of these and I click the 3 dots, I can animate them all. I can make them all the same length too. So if I want them all 6.5 seconds, then that's going to be what pops up on all 5 of those now. All of that is in the student's hands. And I promise you, it took me a while to get the hang of video editing. It did not take them a while to get the hang of video editing. They already use like CapCut and all these kinds of things with TikTok or Reels. And so they're more familiar with it, I think, than we are. So that's why I love the Learn videos that pop up, because then I have my students that are my high achievers or my gifted and talented kiddos that are ready to run the world. And so they don't necessarily need all of that description time from me. They want to go ahead and get in and start messing with it. So our kids learn in so many different ways. We learn in different ways. So whatever you think works best for your population and your students would be how you can introduce this. But I love that Adobe Express gives you all the different options and the tools to make it work for your kids. I can add audio. And that's a whole other lesson in and of itself. I know this is an intro, so I'm probably like overwhelming all of you with all of these things, but I want you to know all the different things that it can do. So that way, if you're looking for something specific, maybe you find it in one of these guided activities or in one of the things that I mentioned. So if I wanted to add audio, I can use their sound effects, and there are plenty. Okay, they have all different kinds, classical, country, whatever. I can search their audio. I can upload from device. So if I already had an audio, like an MP3 file that I wanted to overlay on this, I could do that. My students could use voice memos, and then I could upload that. Or I can do the record voiceover. And then it's going to use my microphone, and I'm going to be able to record over this as it goes. And then I can adjust. If I start talking on this first slide and it takes me 12 seconds, I can grab and I can make it as long as my voice message, my voiceover is for each slide. So that way I'm not having to rush to get to the next one, or there's all this awkward silence because it's still playing, right? You can make that however you need to. So that is like a fast and furious intro into Adobe Express. I want to make sure that we spend our last couple of minutes together just going, like, maybe take a little breath on that to be like, okay, I just showed you like a million things, Amanda, or what are you doing? But for me as a librarian, I want to have all these different tools that I can pull out of my toolbox when a class comes in, or a grade level, or a particular content area is like, hey, I was thinking of doing this lesson on biomes. Do you have any ideas? And I'm like, absolutely, I do. Let's use Adobe Express to create different biomes and then create a character using generative AI, like an animal that doesn't exist, from the characteristics of that biome, right? So generative AI is also a lesson in and of itself. But if I come over here and I'm back on my home screen and I go to educator resources, I want you to think of each of these resources as teaching a specific tool in Adobe Express. So this one was teaching video, was how to animate slides, okay? This one is using generative AI, okay? So if you want one that anytime they have that use generative AI, if y'all already have that part turned on in your district and you want to teach kids a safe and ethical way to use generative AI, then you can search for any of these guided activities that have that in there. And you want to blow some minds, I'm telling you, show them one of these and what it can do. And you will get, you want to talk, I mean, these kids are tuned in. Yesterday, I did a lesson on comics. I had them make their own comic strip, and they got to use generative AI to create like a superhero that doesn't exist, like, or a super animal, like a flying zebra or something like that. And they used, like, they typed in the prompt and then it pops up in front of them. And the cool thing is Adobe Express only uses its own stock images to create these generative AI features, graphics, images, all of that kind of thing. They are not pulling from the internet. They are not taking from creators. They are not, stealing artists' work. They are just using their own images that they own in-house for Adobe. So I'm always talking to kids about that. I'm like, why can't I type in Oprah Winfrey into my generative AI prompt box? Because Adobe Express doesn't own the rights to Oprah Winfrey. They don't have permission to use her likeness. So it is not going to bring up anything. But could I describe what Oprah looks like if I'm wanting to have? So then kids are having to think of descriptive words, and they're having to really learn how to describe people and things, or they're going back into the text and they're using text features to describe what that character looks like based on what the author has let it be written in the book. So if we go back here, did I take it out of that? Yes, I did. Okay, so some housekeeping things is I want to make sure you guys know that if you really like get into Adobe Express and you start playing please join us. We need more librarians because it's a lot of teachers right now. And I love the librarians. So to have that voice, and a lot of people don't know that, like, we're the hub of the school. We're seeing every single kid. We're teaching them all the things in there. So if you wanted like to join the community, our Facebook group is 20,000 plus strong. So if you're in there and you're like, hey, I have to do a digital citizenship lesson next week. How can I use Adobe Express for that? Boom, we're all in there. It is a very positive place to be. Whereas I know not every place on Facebook would be is positive, but definitely also consider signing up to be an ACE leader. We love having the librarians have a voice in that community. Now, if you had access to the Padlet, and I will actually drop it in the chat one more time. Do I have to wait until the project is done to translate? Nope. Whenever you at least get started and you just want like whatever slide you've created so far to be translated, you can translate it. And then as you continue to work on the document, you can translate it again. Like you can just do that process as many times as you need to. Great question. So in the Padlet, this is some useful links that you guys can have. We definitely want you to get certified. So if you want that cool badge, I'm a badge girl. So what I did this time, I want proof of it. Okay. So whenever you click on that link, it's going to take you to, they use Adobe Education Exchange. You're going to want to hit enroll now. And this is where everybody gets tripped up. Right here, you're going to want to click on this particular assignment. And then you want to scroll and hit next. I'm going to do that again. Okay. Because I want to make sure y'all see all the things. Let's see if it'll let me go back now that I'm already enrolled. Let's see. Okay. So I enrolled in the course. I clicked on that link. It's going to bring this up. I'm going to scroll down, and then that next button becomes clickable for me. And confetti, it's my favorite part. So you get the confetti, your badge will be emailed to you. This is great to put in like your signature, especially as a librarian. I always want to learn all the things so that I can share with the school. Hey, I know how to use this tool. Come talk to me. Let's collaborate. Yes, ma'am. Berletta, can come off mute if you'd like to ask a question. Or you can type it in the chat.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. How are you? Quick question. Can the students collaborate? Can they work together?
Absolutely. So and that right up here, I'll just take you here. Right up here, when you are in your document and I can see that little invite button right there, I can put in their email. Or however, y'all, like we are a Google district, so I can put in this is my co-lead librarian. I can put her in there and now we both can edit, or they can just comment if I don't want them all up in my assignment, right? But if I wanted to do edit, now we're both collaborators on this and we can both edit. Does that answer your question? Awesome. So yeah, hopefully everyone is able to get their badge. And then lastly, I want to make sure I did all the things. Got your badge, and then the survey. So you definitely want to make sure that we are getting that survey. I'm pretty sure it's going to be, this is for the registering your attendance. That was for your badge. Yeah, this is for the Facebook group. And then these are going to be some of those helpful links. The slide deck is included if you want to go back and look at some of the things we talked over. Other things to talk about will be generative AI, express integrations. So if you have Canvas, you can have them talk to each other. It's easy to give assignments. I will drop the link to the Padlet. Yes, because that's where all the good things are. I will drop it again to the Padlet. And then if I go back to my little, okay, thank you, presentation, I'm going to also drop the survey link in there as well. And then The extra stuff at the end, if you're going through, it's just the extra things that I like, or extra things to share. Graphs and charts are amazing in Adobe Express. I love working with my math team, or also I do a day in the life of the librarian when I meet with my administration at the end of the year. And I'm like, hey, look at all these things I do and what a day in the life looks like. Um, Okay, so this is a great question, and it's the question I get at every conference I go to, at every time I present. So, yes, I use Canva as well in my personal life. Okay, I use Adobe Express in my personal life, but when it comes to kids, I'm using Adobe Express, period, end of sentence. Because Adobe Express is using it's like one of the only ed tech companies that is protecting our student privacy. You can take a look at their student privacy agreement, and when students are logged in, it was created by educators for educators, whereas fee over here is made for businesses and they let educators use it. Okay. So if I'm using Adobe Express, they know that their whole product, this whole thing, is in the nonprofit sector. They are not out to make any kind of money whatsoever. It is for free for students, and it teaches them the ethics behind it. Not every company can say that they are using their own images when they are using all this generative AI. A lot of companies are pulling from the internet out there and they're grabbing stuff without giving attribution, without giving compensation to these artists. And that's where the ethics come into play. And you can bet I have that conversation with my kids. This is all so new with AI. This is all so new out in the world just of graphic design that we have got to be teaching them the right way to use this stuff. I hope that answered your question. This session, me personally. But yeah, when it comes to kids, preaching to the choir, yes, y'all my people. But yeah, I said I would, yes, yes, and I understand that, Dr. Rose, 100%. So definitely, it's every district is different. Everything, works differently in different places. But but this is how I sold it to my district and my tech department in Adobe Express is that I'm using it in the library to teach digital citizenship. I'm using it to get these kids future ready when it comes to AI. That's my time. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope you'll have a great meeting. And let me know if you have any questions at any time.
Thank you
Okay.
so much. Thank you so much, Amanda. At this time, we're going to quickly transition to pick rep with Binta. And if you need to take a quick stretch, please take a quick stretch while you are still next to your computer. At this time, Binta.
Can I ask a question before we get to the next part? In the presentation that she just finished, did she say that there was a sign-in?
That is for her. We are doing our own sign-in, and that's by you logging in through eDoctrina and then participating through the PD.
Okay.
So we have you locked in. Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Amanda. I am obsessed with Adobe Express already, and I'm already obsessed with Brisk as well, Dr. Rose, so I'm so excited to hear your presentation as well. You all will give me just 1 second to share my slides with you. As you are reflecting on what you just learned about Adobe Express and what you will learn about Brisk, I want you to think of PIC. So you may be wondering, what is PIC? And I'm glad you asked, because PIC is a strategic framework to help you think about how you incorporate technology into your instruction. This presentation was created by our amazing T3 team here in PG County, and it has been adapted for you all. So keep that in mind. PIC is just a way of thinking about how we use technology in all that we do. So let's start here. I don't know about you all, but I am an unashamed foodie. And this diagram completely describes how I feel about life. I love to both integrate as well as incorporate all things food in my life. But we need to think this way about technology as well. How can we simply go from using technology to integrating it into our instruction that will have a long-lasting impact on how our students think of and use technology as they navigate the space that we live in. Let's look at the cupcake, for instance. You have the cake, you have the icing. The two can easily exist separately. But then you have this delicious Twinkie, and you see the icing is kind of infused or integrated within the cake. So let's look at technology in the same way. Think of a lesson that you may be doing with an ebook. You can quite easily play an ebook for students to listen to and to hear, to see, but you don't have to use an ebook in order to share that information. You can actually go pull the same book from your collection and read it. The technology is great, but it's not necessary. However, if you in turn integrate the technology into your lesson, it is an integral part of the students getting what they need to get from it. Think about how we use Book Creator. Book Creator for the Write a Book program is a part of the whole experience. You have to use the technology to create an amazing ebook. Okay, so those are just two examples. As we reflect on how we use technology, think about it as being just the cupcake with the icing on top. If you just use it, technology can be just randomly used. You may have a presentation presented on your board, but you don't have to use it for the kids to get what it is that you want them to teach. It simply focuses on technology. Sometimes we use technology just to say that we used it. It's not necessary, but it's there. It's often used to complete lower order thinking tasks. Lower order thinking tasks. If your kids are just playing video games at home or something of that nature, or they're playing a keyboarding game, it's not critical and necessary for them to understand how to use the proper fingers to strike the keys when you're typing using the correct keyboarding stance. But when you integrate the technology, it takes on a whole new meaning for your learners. The usage is planned, it's purposeful in your lessons. It becomes a part of your classroom culture where students know that not only are they going to come and get great instruction from you, but they're going to have an opportunity to apply it with the latest technology tools. The focus is to create and develop new thinking processes. We want our students to leave PG County equipped to not only use technology in a passive way, but to use it in a way that's going to innovate and change the world. Effective technology integration is focused on the students. It helps us to think about how the technology is going to support their learning, content, as well as the skills. It incorporates collaboration, critical thinking, communication, and creativity. And you as the educator, the teacher, your role shifts. You're not just someone that's there to tell them what they need to know. You're helping them to facilitate and navigate a world where they can create their own understanding and something amazing. So let's take a look at this cute little video about what is PIC.
When new technologies are invented, they often provide many new ways of thinking and doing things. For example, how have smartphones changed the way we live and work? Or tablets, or even the internet? However, one problem we have as humans is that often we can't imagine very well the new possibilities available from new technologies. So instead we use them just to do the same things we have always done before. Teachers struggle with this too. We often teach the way we were taught and struggle to think of how we could teach better based on the technologies we have that our teachers did not have. Richard Culotta, former director of the Office of Educational Technology for the U.S. Department of Education, shared the following concern.
Here's the issue. If we are not careful, if we are not super cautious about all the decisions we make, in a very short amount of time, by the time the freshmen that are in this room have graduated, we will have a complete digital replica of the traditional practices that are not working today. And we will have everything that we have now. It will just be on a screen instead of on paper, and it will be just as ineffective, and it will cost a whole lot of money, and we'll be just as stuck as we will, and not have another ticket to play to be able to make a change.
Our goal is to help you think critically about the technology you'll use in your classroom, and to begin to see the potential technology has to transform and engage students in the learning experience in new ways. To begin, we're going to show you a technology integration framework. Frameworks are tools we use to begin conversations. In this case, conversations about how we should use technology to improve student learning. Let me introduce the RAP model. The first letter R represents replacement. Replacement can mean the following. 1. Changes the appearance or dressing of our practices, but not the practice itself, making digital copies of traditional practices, recycling instruction. 2. It doesn't affect teaching or learning practices and behaviors. 3. Can still be a useful use of technology because it can increase access. For example, a digital worksheet won't get lost or eaten by your dog, but it doesn't really impact or improve learning. The A in RAT equals amplifying. In other words, technology improves the efficiency of tasks or introduces new functions to original tasks. The T in RAT equals transforming. It introduces new activities in learning that are impossible without technology. Take away the technology, take away the learning too. Next in our PIC-RAT model is the PIC portion. P equals passive. In other words, students are observers, bystanders in their learning. The I equals interactive. Students engage in material in an interactive way. They are active learners. The C equals creative. Students are creating materials themselves. They are creative learners instead of passive or active ones. This is the apex of student engagement, and students often learn deeper when they have to create something using the content. By combining PIC and RAT together, we create a matrix of the many different ways technology can influence teaching and learning. You could use a technology that replaces a face-to-face conversation and where students are passive learners, such as a video lecture, or where they get to interact back through technology, such as a video conversation, or where they get to learn by creating their own videos in a way that completely transforms the way you typically teach. The PIC-RAT model is a great tool for helping you to think about your teaching and how you use technology in the classroom. None of the squares on the matrix is necessarily a bad way to teach. Sometimes it's good to be a passive learner, for example, and listen to others, such as in this video. But a good teacher will continually evaluate their practice and think how they can improve. Using the PIC-RAT model can help you think about what kinds of ways you could use technology that will help students be more active and creative as learners, and ways that transform your teaching to levels you hadn't considered before. So when you hear about a new technology, don't just ask what it can do for you that you already are doing anyway. Think PIC-RAT and see if there's a way this technology can help you transform your teaching in positive ways.
All right. So think about that for a moment. We all use some form of technology daily, but how can we take our instructional technology from remaining at passive and replacing? How can we then move it up so that eventually our students are being creative and transformative in what they're producing while they're under your care? Also, this presentation will be shared with you. You can also download a copy of this PIC-RAT model. I encourage you to do so and post it in a place where you normally sit and plan your lessons or your instruction. And hopefully it will help you to think a little deeper and think differently about how you're using technology with your students. Remember, the goals of PIC-RAT is for you to be reflective and to also seek out meaningful resources. Now, we have a curriculum. It's a strong curriculum. But as you all know, that it's an evolving, dynamic curriculum. It has to change because the times are changing. And you may not use everything in the lessons, but you have to have a baseline, and you should be able to find new ways to make it better and hopefully share with your colleagues. All right, so let's take a moment to think. Imagine that you are currently teaching a lesson that is passive replacing. So an example would be that instead of students using paper to respond to their writing, the educator posts the prompt in Canvas. You as a library media specialist can unlock the prompt on the interactive board, and then students simply write their responses in Canvas. You're using technology, but it's passive, it's replacing. They could write on paper. The next level will be interactive amplifying. So instead of unlocking the prompt through a teacher-directed activity, students are called to the interactive panel, and those seated use a digital highlighter to unlock the prompt as a class. The prompts are shared so the students can add comments in their Canvas and to provide feedback to one another. Okay, we're taking it a step up. It's a little bit further. Ideally, we will be at the creative transforming phase, where students are given choice as to how and what they submit as their final writing product. Students may choose different tools such as videos, podcasts, blogs, Book Creator, that are then shared globally or with an audience outside of their classroom for more feedback. The Write-A-Book program is a great example. But think about all the creative ways that your students can take what they learn with you in media to the next level. Makerspace, innovation labs, in podcasting, the opportunities are endless. Just remember, technology will never replace great teachers. I don't care what anyone is saying about the emergence of AI. You can never be replaced. But technology in the hands of a great teacher can be transformational. Thank you so much. As always, we encourage you to always sign up for courses with T3. And thank you for attending our PDs. If you have any questions or if you need other ideas or resources, the entire OLMS team is here. If you have any questions, you drop them in the chat and we'll be glad to respond to them.
Thank you so much, Binta.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to transition to You're Working Too Hard, presented by Dr. Rose.
I am over here like laughing and saying to myself, oh my, you're the last person on the agenda. And then I'm saying to myself, I'm glad I'm the last person on the agenda. Why? Because at this time, I think you might be feeling just a smidge overwhelmed. And if you are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, welcome to the club. Teaching and learning in the United States of America is a work of love and passion. And so today, I'm here to help you, if for anything, try to figure out how you can leverage technology to lighten the load. You don't have to be an expert in everything. And I'm a firm believer that we can leverage AI to really help us in the work that we have to do. But when we start thinking about the tasks that you have to do and what the daily grind looks like, you have a wealth of resources at your disposal. How do you make it make sense for yourself and for your students, right? How do you build in choice without igniting burnout for yourself? So just tonight alone, you saw a very robust tool in Adobe Express. By the way, while I was watching, I built a little video while I was watching the presentation. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So Adobe Express does a lot of what Canva does, right? And so if you know one platform, you absolutely know both of them. But then how do you make a decision about what's best to work within your learning space, right? So your Canva account is connected to your Canvas account and it's already rostered. So that's one less thing off your plate. But there are some cool features in Adobe that your students should absolutely get an opportunity to take a look at. And so just really thinking about what is it about the tools that you have and how is it going to help you in your core goals? And your core goals is to support your students as they're creating these beautiful write-a-books. And with all of these resources, I know that they're going to do a phenomenal job, right? So how do we get started? So when we get started and we start thinking about not working as hard as we do, how do we organize the tools that we have? How do we leverage them? And how do we make that learning accessible? So I'm going to go through a couple of slides just to sort of prime the pump to start thinking. And then I'm going to go into my account. You get to see my messy desktop and you get to see all of the craziness that goes on in my world, just so that I can demonstrate to you some of the things that could literally eliminate hours of work in your life. So everything that I've done for this presentation, I used AI to help me to do, okay? I use AI as a brainstorming tool. I use it to create resources. I use it to do some research, and I use it to create things that I just do not have the skills for. I am not a great video production person, so anytime I can prompt something to create a video, sign me up twice, okay? So are you ready to shorten your to-do list? So we're going to take a look at three categories. We're going to look at Canvas as your command central, because every organized person who is dealing with educating teachers and educating students needs a command central, right? And then which AI tools could you potentially use to really just automate some of those things that you have to do while you can focus on the things that you want to do? And wanting to do is really working with the kids around, hey, you're creating your write a book and we're using Book Creator. Which tool do you think you want to use the best in order to make it come to life, right? And then how can you offset some of the things that you need to do in a meaningful way so that students get that academic support that they need? Because a lot of the times that they come to you to get support around building their projects, you may not have all of the context that you need to help them. So for example, I'm working on my science fair project and I need some support with science fair. I don't know about you all, but I have 3 kids, and each time somebody had to do science fair, I cried in a really dark corner in the space saying, please don't ask me for help with science fair. But had we had something like Pear Deck Tutor at our disposal, I would have signed up for it several times. So Pear Deck Tutor is an opportunity for you to take students to a kiosk and or computer, and they can log into Pear Deck Tutor and get live tutoring in any subject for free. So I know they can do that with Pear Deck that Prince George's County pays for. And then the Prince George's County Memorial Library System also uses BrainFuse as a live tutoring opportunity for students. So when Pear Deck goes away, we go back and let the library of the county pay for the resources. But these are 3 things that we're going to really just take a look at. Using Canvas as your command central. We're going to play around with 3 AI-driven tools. So Brisk Teaching, I want you to take a look at, because I think that would be a great place to begin with sort of thinking through how you want to automate some pieces. And then what does it look like to work with your students using tools like Mizzou? And I just learned about Mizzou on Friday, and I literally built a bot today. So we'll share what that looks like. And then I'll show you a Canvas page that I created that I will share out with this group after this session tonight, that you can put kids into Pear Deck Tutor for them to be able to utilize a live tutor while they're in the library with you. So let's use Canvas as your command center. So as you all know, we have a teaching and learning hub in Prince George's County, and your wonderful supervisor and specialists in the office have worked really hard to create some exemplar courses for you. So they've done a lot of the hard work and heavy lift on your behalf, right? So I've taught in many places and I've had to build Canvas courses from scratch. Having an exemplar to begin with, I don't even know what I would have done had I had something like that. But you were fortunate because you've got them for every grade level, right? So you go out to Commons, which is like going to the superstore. It's like going to Costco for your courses. So you go to Costco, you grab your Canvas course, and you import it into your sandbox. And now you are ready to start pulling together a learning space that you can create automated opportunities to help students that are coming in mass, so that you can focus on small groups. Or if you're working with multiple teachers at a different time, you can really set up your Canvas course to really support that in a meaningful way. So what I did this evening was I went and I pulled in your grade 8 library exemplar, and I just tweaked it just a smidge. And I'll show you how it was tweaked and then how I used Brisk to do that, and ways in which that you can automate some of this work. And then I'll show you the Pear Deck Tutor component. Now, Pear Deck Tutor is connected to Clever, which when Binta was speaking, she was talking about integration that's meaningful. So how do we remove some of the barriers? Let's use some of the tools that are already there and integrate it with the infrastructure that we have at our disposal here in Prince George's County. So you can click on Clever. You access Pear Deck Tutor. You have students that are coming into you and they're saying, my teacher gave me a writing assignment. I have to, do X, Y, and Z. Can you help me find some resources to create this report that I have to do, or to create this essay that I have to write? Well, Pear Deck Tutor has a writing lab that's available where students can upload their work and get feedback from that within 24 hours of time. A lot of times it's a lot shorter than that, but it's a resource that students need to understand is available to them and that they can plan ahead for it. So if you had students that you're working with and they submitted their work to the writing lab and it received some feedback, the feedback would be what you could work with your students on to say, well, let's take a look to see what the tutor gave you as far as feedback is concerned, to see which resources we could potentially take a look at that would help you. If you have students that are working on a History Day project and they need to do an annotated bibliography, that is your wheelhouse. So what are some of the ways that they could take a look at those resources and really speak to how that's helping their research to grow? Then we're going to take a look at Brisk teaching. So I'm calling this your personal assistant. In Brisk, you can have it to create anything for you that ChatGPT can do it, but it does it right in one space. It creates handouts. It creates presentations. It also creates differentiated lesson plans. So if you are in a space where you have multiple grade levels, multiple languages that you must provide support with and for, Brisk is a wonderful way to be able to do that, and then we'll demonstrate that today. It's free to use, but there's a premium feature. Now, because you all are on this Zoom with us this evening, I'm going to get the list of your names from Dr. Petrella, and I will upgrade your free version to premium so that you can use all of the bells and whistles in Brisk for now until the end of June. We are working to get the contract approved for next year. There's also a component that looks at for students to be able to create lessons that are already aligned to your standards and the instructional lens that you're working on with students through what's called Student Boost. But that's not coming until next year. But I'll show you what the platform looks like. All right, are we ready to go? Okay, no judgment zone right now because we're getting ready to go into my tab world. Okay, so let me go to Canvas first. So as I shared, look at this. I created a sandbox with your library grade 8 curriculum, all right? And so you've already done the hard work of creating the course. I imported it in, but I added 2 buttons. And the buttons that I added was one for an orientation module. So if you click on here, students would go into an orientation module where you welcome them to the library. And I did this in minutes because I used AI to do it. You're going to be more intentional about your work, right? But it says, welcome to the library. We're going to take a look at how you could use the Sora app and the Destiny platform. And here are some things that you could use when you're in the library so that you can get yourself acclimated. Now, this just gives you an example of how you can use Canvas to sort of navigate your students while you're working with other students, right? So they go through this module and now they're informed that there is something called Pear Deck Tutor that they can access. And then if they click next, it gives them an opportunity to read through, hey, I'm working with a live tutor today. How do I access that tutor? So this is just a Google Slides that has been embedded, and I will share this page with you so you could just import it right into your course if you'd like to. You can put it in any grade level because Pear Deck Tutor is available for all students, grades K through 12. Now, of course, if you're working with the little people, they need adults to help them to get started. And so, but this is a nice way to help elementary age students who need extra support in the library to maybe work with a paraprofessional who is working in the building, who can support them in a tutoring session to reinforce skills. and all different types of ways. It's safe. All of the students are recorded. Everything is provided to their parents to be able to see. But this walks them through how to get started. And then in here, there is a student guide. Now, the student guide is more for your middle and your high school students to be able to guide them through what types of notes should I be taking. So it's going to give them a forced copy for the guidance document, and it gives them some prompts. So it says if you're working to submit a paper to the writing lab and you're doing it for any of the core subject areas, here are some ways that you can ask some questions of the tutor. Here's some questions that you need to think about preparing before you connect with the tutor. And then while you're working with the tutor, for you to jot down some notes about reflection so that when you go back to have a conversation with this tutor, you can pick the same tutor again, or you can get a brand new tutor and then refer to your notes to say, this is what I'd like to address again because I didn't get it the last time. And students have access to the videos that they have with each of the tutors, so they can go back and review the work session that they did with the tutor and or share it with their teachers, or you, the librarian, if they're in there with you, to say, this is what we worked on before. So that's one tool that sort of gives you an idea. Here's another way that you can use Canvas as your command central, and now sprinkle a little bit of AI in here, right? So you have all of these wonderful resources for your students. Wouldn't it be nice if you had a bot that could explain what each of these resources were for your students? So then I created this bot. It's called Ask LibKia, right? The library kiosk. I know, not fancy, but it takes you to a bot that was created. So this is what students would see. So it says, this is the PGCPS Student Library Kiosk Assistant. And so the student would put in their name and they would start the session. And so this bot has been trained on Sora and Destiny, right? So now because I typed in my name, the bot already knows who I am. That's all that I gave it. I didn't give it anything else but a first name. I could have put anything in there. But this is the welcome message that I created in Brisk today to be able to plug into the bot, right? So it says, I'm your friendly assistant. Where would you like to find a book? So I would say, wait, where did I go? Come on, move out the way. There we go. Like to find a book about sharks, all right? So now it's thinking to see where it could potentially help me find a book about sharks. And your bot is as helpful as you are. So it's telling me, you've got a great choice. Let's find a book, but let's pick which database we're going to look at. Now, I only told it 2 databases, but you can do, one at a time. You could do 2. So now, if I wanted to speak to me, because I don't want to read all of that, let me know if you can hear this. It's coming. Of course.
Great choice, Sandra. Let's find a book about sharks. 1. If you're using Sora, open the Sora app. Log in with your school credentials. Use the search bar at the top and type sharks. Browse the results and click on a title for details. 2. If you're using Destiny, go to the Destiny catalog. Use the search bar to enter sharks. Explore the listings to find a book you like.
So I could say, oh, sorry. All right. Once I find a book, what should I look at for sharks? So now the students can speak to it. And it ideally should be responding back based on what the students needs. So now if it gets to a point where it says, well, I don't think it picked up. If it gets to a point where it says it doesn't know the answer, it's trained to go and ask the librarian for some help, right? So if the students are struggling, they can always come in and ask for some help. I can skip this, but this is just one way that you can utilize this. So I was thinking while I was in listening to the Adobe presentation, I was like, wow, that's a lot of information, right? How could I use Brisk to give me a tutorial about everything that I just heard in the Adobe presentation? So I went to my favorite place on the planet, which is YouTube, right? And I looked up a tutorial for how to use Adobe Express for Education. So now once you add Brisk to your instance, and we'll talk about that in just a second, it's always going to pop up on your screen. So Brisk is sitting here as your assistant waiting for you, and you will click on it and you'll say create. So now this is where the magic happens. You tell it what you'd like to create. So do you want to create a tutorial for students that you're going to embed in Canvas? Or do you want to create some sort of inquiry sheet or podcast feature that you want to create? These are all options that you have. But if you wanted to do just a quick presentation, it automatically spoon feeds you a prompt. It'll say, create a presentation about this YouTube video. Now that's pretty generic, right? Or
Our channel in today's video,
we can input here, include.
we are going to show you how to use Adobe
My computer is being fresh tonight. Include steps
Express for
needed. Okay.
education.
Silencio. Okay, then we would click next, make sure. Now, the premium feature, you can align it to standards. These are all of the standards that it has for the state of Maryland. Or if there are some standards, say for example, for library media, and if you don't see them here, we can get them added, right? But imagine that you're trying to connect this to content that you have for your teachers, right? We're going to go to 8th grade. We're going to select a strand. This is going to be about informational text. And let's just say we picked this one. Now it's going to align the presentation based on the prompt that you provided it. And then you can select how you want your presentation to come out. Do you want it to be at an 8th grade level? Now, even though you're working with 8th grade, sometimes it's a little easier for them if you just lower the grade level just for a smidge, just so that it's more accessible for students. And you know your students better than anyone else, right? And then the more you use this, you can personalize it to your learners. But let's just say you just wanted to do this. You could pick any of the templates that are here, and then you would tell it to Brisket. And now what it's doing is it's reading the transcript that's connected to the video and creating a presentation based on the content that's there. So ideally, it should have opened this up, but it's doing its thing. Let's see. If it doesn't, Brisk is an overlay. It works with any Google product, and it's throttling now. Did I do it already? I didn't do it already. Brisk it again. I'll show you the video that says when technology goes wrong, you have to have a backup, right? So your backup is always necessary because it never works for all the time. Today would be a great day. All right, we'll come back to it. Let's try it on a document. I'll drop this in the chat for you all while we wait for it to work. Let's see who is, I saw some questions in the chat. Let's see, how is Brisk different from Magic School AI? They have the very same features. Magic School AI has some additional components, like students can build a bot, but Brisk has a built-in feature in it where it can act as ChatGPT for teachers. It also connects to your Canvas account. where you can provide feedback right within your speed grader. Magic School AI does not do that. And what else is the difference? It provides analytics for the district at a district level, which is nice. And then we can customize our rubrics within within Brisk that we're not quite able to do with Magic School at this time. Any other questions? We're still brisking. Show of hands for folks who have utilized their Canvas courses as their command central to use all of the resources that you have at your disposal. Am I preaching to the choir? Oh, you can come off of mute. Oh,
I found the classes that I've exported to Canvas that were created by OLMS to be extremely helpful. Especially when I go in to speak with my AP doing my evaluation. You know, I put in some of my stuff and I'm like, look, I have a whole curriculum here.
I love it. So how many folks are like managing multiple grade levels at a time? So are you putting it on your dashboard and then working from each grade level, or do you put it all into one course and then you're creating like a homepage where you can access all the different modules in one?
I put mine on my dashboard. I work with multiple grade levels, so I do each grade level like that.
Likewise.
I love it. Well, as luck would have it, the wheel of death has begun on my computer, and so therefore Brisk is not cooperating with me this evening. But what we can do is, once I get everyone's name from this evening's session, I can ensure that you get access to the premium version of it. It really is cool, and I wish it would show up tonight. But always have a backup plan, right? So the backup plan is to really talk about when it does work. These features really do save time and have the capability for you to really customize it for your needs. The way that you can create within Brisk with your rubrics is a game changer because it customizes the feedback that you provide based on the rubrics and then allows you to copy and paste it right into your Canvas courses. So I know that sometimes you're asked to do professional learning in your buildings for teachers, and this is a nice way to be able to build a presentation based on the documents that you already have in your Google Drive, embed it into your Canvas course, and then as you're engaging with folks within your building, you can provide some feedback readily, easily when this is working nicely. Today, not a good day, but always have that backup. I'm so sorry for that. Does anyone have any questions regarding Canvas, Mizzou? Did you want to see my Adobe video that I created while we were waiting? I'll show you my Adobe video. Because clearly this thing was like, nope, not working for you today. I think it's my computer because now Adobe's not doing it. Okay, here we go. Let me share. Share, share, share. Okay, so what did she say to do? Files. Let's see. So I created this draft. It was really quick, but I just dropped in the image. And then I did the animation.
Okay. I can also go to effects and I can make it a little like some shading.
So because my microphone was connected to this, it was picking up the speaker's voice, but I could have added anything to that. I added this graphic in here, things I learned today and in today's date, but you can pick from the animation and that was pretty cool. Speaking of Canva, though, Canva does the same thing, but not this cute. So I think students would really love that component of it. And to be able to embed that as an assignment in Canvas is a really nice way to work with your students. So as you're building your assignments in Canvas, if you have assignments for students, you can create that in such a way that you could use it as an LTI integration. So in the assignments feature, when you're building, you can plug in, let's just say you wanted to do late night texting, and then you wanted to plug in one of the assignments from either Adobe or Canva. You can just plug those links right into your ready-made assignment and have students exit out to be able to do that, and then use Brisk to provide some feedback in the SPRE grader. Let's see if the grades would at least show up. Well, no, I don't have any assignments, so it's not going to do it. Boo. Okay. Once I get some students, I'm going to send you all a video so that you can take a look. Dr. Pachala, my apologies that my internet is doing something really strange.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So at this time, I'm going to put, I am going to put the exit ticket into the chat, and I will give you back some of your time